Some rules were not made to be broken. Hello everyone, and welcome to Movie Reviews by Josh. My name is Josh Terry, and as you can tell from the hat, today I want to talk about one of my favorite Christmas movies. Now, like everybody else, I have a fond, attachment to a lot of the classic Christmas movies like A Christmas Story, and National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation is a fun one. It's a Wonderful Life is always a great one. But I thought it might be kind of fun to highlight a couple of the lesser celebrated, maybe even movies that you could argue are not really Christmas movies, but still fun to talk about. And the one I want to talk about today is Gremlins from 1984. Gremlins came out height of the 80s, and it was from Joe Dante. And if you watched many of my videos, you probably know that Joe Dante is one of my favorite directors. He also did Inner Space, he did The Burbs, and his style, his comedy, which is kind of lighthearted and dark at the same time, really kind of captures the spirit of the 80s to me. When I think about what I love about 80s movies, a lot of what I remember fondly is kind of the energy and the style that Joe Dante brought to his work. And Gremlins is absolutely a perfect classic example of this. In fact, it was so dark and maybe not really gory, but I mean, it was edgy enough that it was kind of part of that transition between just PG and R to PG, PG-13, and rated R in terms of movie ratings. But anyway, if you haven't seen the movie, first of all, definitely want to go see it. I'm recommending this one. But you also should know that it is essentially about an exotic pet that winds up almost destroying a small town over one Christmas. So in that sense, the backdrop is Christmas, and so it's kind of a Christmas movie. Close enough to talk about in the video. The main character is a kid named Billy. He's actually probably in his early 20s. A young man who works at a local bank. It's kind of a small town. He's got a girlfriend played by Phoebe Cates. And life's pretty good. He's got kind of the usual stresses. And one year, his dad, who is an inventor, finds this exotic pet to give him as a Christmas gift. He finds him in this this Chinese gift store off in the city. And in the box is this little animal called a mogwai. And of course, for the purposes of the movie, it's just a hand puppet. It's meant to be, it's really cute. It's got big googly eyes. It looks kind of like a furry Yoda, almost be one way to put it. So maybe this is kind of Baby Yoda before Baby Yoda. So there are 3 rules that you have to follow if you are the owner of a mogwai. And the first of those is that you can't expose them to sunlight. They don't like sunlight, so they're kind of like vampires. You don't want to get them wet. You also don't want to feed them after midnight. And of course, because this is a movie and because this is, movies do what movies do, as soon as Billy gets a hold of the mogwai, which is named Gizmo, that's the mogwai's name is Gizmo, all the rules start getting violated and things just kind of spin out of control. And without giving away too much, basically by getting them wet, they multiply, and when they're fed after midnight, they change into a different form. They metamorphosize. So this becomes kind of this, almost like an alien invasion movie by the end of it, that is just really kind of campy and crazy and fun and over the top. And Billy and his girlfriend kind of have to lead this quest to free their town from the rule of this invading species. And it's really great. There are a couple things I want to point out about this. Again, first of all, just that it's got a fun tone that it strikes this weird balance, because you almost want to call it a family movie, but it's also dark enough that they gave it a PG-13 rating, and so it's not for little kids, probably too scary. But one thing I was just barely thinking about actually was that it's all done with, because this is the early mid 80s. It's done with puppets, and practical effects, and you don't have CGI or anything like that. And it occurred to me that, man, this movie would not be nearly as good if it was, if these were computer generated, monsters and animals and stuff. And so I think that the timing of this and kind of the spirit and the vibe and the aesthetic to it is really, really dependent on, the fact that it was produced when it was. And I think that was absolutely perfect for it. But on a slightly less important but celebrated note for me, this movie also features probably my all-time favorite Christmas song. Now, if you divide Christmas music into kind of like, your more specifically religious Christmas music and your secular, kind of holiday music, this one starts off with Christmas, Baby Please Come Home from Darlene Love, which is absolutely, in terms of like secular Christmas holiday songs, all-time favorite. And so if you love kind of like the early 60s Phil Spector stuff, in fact, it came off an album that Spector produced. And yes, it is that Phil Spector, but maybe try to set that aside for a second. But it's part of just a great Christmas feel that really kind of captures the joy and the romance and even the kind of the heartache of the season. So look for that. I think it's right over the opening credits. And one big highlight that I've always appreciated about the movie. So Gremlins, 1984, Joe Dante, really great one. I would put this up, 3.5 stars out of 4. Christmas is more of a backdrop than the theme. The message doesn't have to as much to do about Christmas as it does about being responsible and maybe taking care of the Earth's creatures. But it is a fun one. I think you'll enjoy it if you haven't seen it, and if you have seen it, I think you'll enjoy checking it out again. So as I mentioned, Gremlins is rated PG-13, mostly just kind of for action, violence, gore, and more gross out. Not really gore, just kind of like when the Mogwai metamorphosize into other, it's a little bit gross, and there is some violence and stuff, a little bit of language, but it would probably be considered fairly tame and fairly standard even for PG-13 nowadays. But like I said, not going to be the best for little kids, but it definitely has kind of a fun Christmassy family vibe. So what's your favorite Christmas movie from the 80s? Leave your answers in the comments below. So thanks for watching. This has been Movie Reviews by Josh. My name is Josh Terry, and I'd be so grateful if you would subscribe on your way out. Make sure to leave notifications on so that you can see the new videos as soon as they're posted. And have yourself a great Christmas season. Take care.